Last time out at Spa, Jost Junk was able to extend his championship lead in what ended up being a nail-biter of a race. Now, as the series heads into the final race at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit, his championship seems all but inevitable. But this classic circuit is known for throwing up more than a few curveballs at the drivers. Will Jost be able to take home his crown, or will something unforeseen blow the championship wide open? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 5 of the Absolute Beginner League's Formula Neagle, and you'll see it all here live on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm DJ Clark, and with me in the booth is Jake Sperry. Behind the scenes is our director Joe Peak, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. There are plenty of chances to overtake here at the Nürburgring, but there are just as many places to get it wrong. Let's head over to our track guide to find out what's in store for our drivers today.
Welcome to the Nürburgring. Often overshadowed by its older, bigger brother, the Nordschleife, the Grand Prix course has actually accrued quite a bit of history itself. This modern circuit was built in the early 80s as a replacement for the lesser-known Southern Loop. And while it was updated and extended in 2002, it stayed roughly 3 miles in length throughout its history. However, the addition of the Mercedes Arena brought about a total of 6 different layouts to choose from, with the longest including 16 turns. Though not as fearsome as the Ring, it's technically challenging and carries its own fair share of elevation change. Plus, the types of corners come in a wide variety, ranging from the heavy braking into the sharp hairpin of the first turn, to the swift Schumacher S, which is still not quite flat out in a lot of modern cars. Passing can sometimes come at a premium, and drivers are often forced to get creative if they find themselves stuck behind a competitor. But the difficulty that elicits mistakes means that patience can pay off for those who stay diligent. While Formula One raced here on and off for a few decades, it now mainly hosts GT and touring car racing, along with some lower-tier open-wheel series. In the end, race fans certainly shouldn't overlook the importance of this German circuit. While it may not carry the fame of its counterpart, it holds up well and helps keep this worldwide phenomenon relevant to modern racing.
Well, Jake, we were lucky enough to see Formula One cars come back to this circuit last year, but it's been a minute since we've really seen a lot of other ones. What can we expect from these skippies around the Nürburgring?
Well, that truly is the question here. This is a fantastic circuit, although this is the one that we're going to here today, the Nürburgring. Here in Germany, we've been apparently a cup of hot coffee away from this one, but 16 turns, just a shade over 3.9 miles. A very, very long track out there today, but one which is going to test the patience of a lot of drivers. There are places you can make passes. The straights here, I would say, perfectly suited for getting alongside when it comes to a skip barber, but not necessarily the greatest for overtaking. That big run up at the top end of the circuit is going to be key through the Ad Van Bogen corner, through towards that Vidal chicane and the Hyundai N-curve. That end of the lap is probably the most crucial place on this circuit, especially for 40 minutes worth of racing action.
Well, and as we've come to expect, it's going to be some great racing action. But as we said, this is the final round, so let's take a look at how that championship is standing out. It's pretty much a two-way fight between Jost Junk and David Burns, with Junk holding a 12-point advantage. Now, the way they've been running all season, I would say that's going to be an unassailable gap for Burns to make up, but we've seen crazy things happen here in the Absolute Beginners League, so anything could happen. Behind them, it's a super tight fight for third between Josh Brain, Ludwig Sauer, and Alexander Wilfert, all of them separated only by 3 points. We also have an F2 championship. Jake?
Absolutely. Ludwig Sauer then on top of that, 60 points to his name there, ahead of Wojtek Potaszek in second position, 13 points to margin, very similar. And it's nicely evenly spaced to Christopher Crook there in third position, Stefan Krumpholz in fourth position, and Thomas Kick. That is going to be a crucial fight, fourth and fifth, just 2 points splitting them at this moment, heading into this first lap of qualifying as they are halfway around the circuit.
Yes, and speaking of qualifying, we're going to run you through those team standings as well. In that, Two Stupid Dogs in the lead right now by 13 points. Video Brewers Racing Team trying to chase them down. Evolve Motorsport about 10 points back from them. Beyond damage beyond recognition, however, they're about 25 or so points back, so that's going to be a hard thing to make. But Shake and Bake closing in on them for 4th place. Now, before we get to that qualifying action, Jake, why don't you run us through today's race details?
Yeah, we absolutely will. Round 5 of 5. No real reason to understand why this race is so tough. It is the last round of the championship. Nerves will be on edge. You've got to drive perfectly. 40 minutes, as we've said, to figure everything out. An open setup means that you have to be in charge of what you change on this car. Not many parameters on the skip barber, especially as it's been around in the iRacing servers for forever and a day. It was there when I started a full 6-7 years ago, and it was there a long time before that. No drop rounds in this championship, so effectively every race result will matter. And as we'd expect, a standing start here at the Nürburgring, meaning that get-go off the line is going to be so very crucial. First lap's now starting as they enter the Mercedes-Benz Arena.
Indeed they are, and as you can see with this open qualifying, a lot of drivers taking advantage of that tow. We follow there David Third Degree Burns as he makes his way around behind Ludwig Sauer, hoping to pick up a good run from that. But there is the man of the hour, the Benelux driver, Just Jonk, your championship leader. He's running in some clean air right now, doesn't really have anybody in front of him at all. The closest driver being Thomas Kick, who's about 12 seconds up the road from Just. So we'll have to see if that lack of draft hurts or helps him here. Makes his way down there through that curving section on his way to the Goodyear curve.
Yes, and it's going to be a crucial run to that curve as they go through. The big long right is on camber. It's carousel-esque, of course. That fabled carousel on the Nordschleife circuit is always very strong. And then you take this rise back up the hill, the Michael Schumacher S, or the Schumacher's S, as you could say, because you've got Mick Schumacher now in Formula 1. On top of that, brother Ralf Schumacher is always very good, and maybe up and coming in the next couple of years, David Schumacher might be someone to keep an eye out on. Then into Ravenel, 90-degree left-hander. Very easy to take too much out of it. It's nice and neat on the run, but that leads to the Bilstein curve, which goes on for forever and a day. You want to put the power down, but once again, you have to be patient on the throttle as you then crest the rise. The Ad Van Bogen right-hander is a fleeting corner in these Skip Barber machines. They know that they have to just work out where their brake marker is for this final section. This Vidal chicane left and right over the curbs potentially is the way forward. You've got to be aggressive around this place if you want to get the lap time out of it. And then the final corner, that Hyundai N curve here, this big 120-degree right, which leads onto that front stretch. You can't take anything out of the inside, and don't push too wide on the out.
Yeah, you got to be very careful. That kitty litter will be there to catch you, as now we're going to see our first times coming across the board. David Burns able to pip Just Jonk, and Jeff Randall able to get above there as well with a 2:19.515. So that draft looking like it is hurting Just, and indeed he looks like he's going to pull off there, maybe try to get a little bit out of it. More and more times coming in right now. Matichinsky is going to jump his way up to third ahead of Wojciech Podacek. Ludwig Sauer rounding out your top 5. Jonk all the way down in 6th right now, so he's going to have to hope for some more time here as we get going. As we said there, Jeff Randall, currently your top driver in that very familiar British racing green livery.
It's not the end of the world right now here for Just Jonk. The Alain Prost in me would say, well, he needs 7th place or higher for the championship. It is as simple as that. So qualifying the car in 6th, yes, it doesn't give you much leeway, so to speak, but it's doing the job at the moment. And when you've got a 2-minute 2:19.5 lap, it is going to be tough to get all of the time out there. David J. Burns has been doing everything right. You can see the chrome machine flying through at that Goodyear hairpin and charging back up the hill once again. It's all about draft in these Skip Barbers. They are very dependent, and one thing is for sure as well, these drivers will know to be very, very cautious, these machines, under iRacing new damage model.
Yeah, just a little bit of a bump there can send him off, but this is Gordon Vandenbergen as he makes his way around. Looks like he is pretty quick right now, judging off of the times, about 2.5 seconds up. So, whoa, that wiggle, though, not going to help his lap time.
No, I think he was just trying to warm some tyre up there off of the exit. Looked very, very deliberate then, saying that, oh, my lap's not working. And, well, if you're going to get some heat into those chunky, I would say Oreo-like tyres, the way that they go around, it's going to be very, very tough to get them. Because, as we also know here, DJ, it's a case of these tyres have an incredible life on them. I saw a 12-hour race, in Skip Barber's, and they only had to pit once for tyres.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of life. We're not going to see a whole lot of pit stop. We're not going to see any tire changes during the pit stops as David Burns now goes to the top of the list. Jeff Randall's going to hold on to second. Ludwig Sauer jumps his way up to third, and Just Jonk popping his way up the order to fourth, but he's going to get bumped down as Wojciech Podacek goes into second, and Christopher Crook makes his way into fifth. I've got to be thinking here, Jake, that if I'm Just Jonk, I want to be in a draft. It looks like it's really hurting him. George Matuszynski there also now up onto the front row, only about 79 thousandths of a second off of Burns' provisional full time.
Let's call it 800ths then for a bit of clarity. Some wonderful work by Matuszynski, someone who is pretty underrated when it comes to a Skip Barber challenge and should be someone to keep an eye out on in this sort of race. But the crucial matter of fact is that Jonk has not got the qualifying at the moment. We were talking about P7 gets it done. Well, that's only if David Burns wins. There are bonus points on offer as well. Benjamin Harris in the 5-2-1 making a charge over towards the line, and that is another great improvement. A 19.7 gets the job done. P6, another driver in the way of car 13. Some would say it's lucky for some.
Exactly. Here comes Nenad Ulip as he comes to the line. Is this going to be an improvement? Yes, it is, to the tune of about 0.6 of a second. That'll bump his way up to 11th place right now for the 0-2 as he makes his way now into that Yokohama S, that very tricky Mercedes-Benz arena section. We're liable to see some good fights there. Always good back and forth overtaking in that area. Now focusing in on Thomas Kick as he makes his way around. Looks like he's about 0.5 seconds up on his best time as he makes his way through the Vidal chicane. Nice little tribute there to Gunther Steiner on the side of that Skippy. Makes his way now out of Hyundai. And a little bit of internet problems there for Kick, but let's see if he's able to set a quick time.
Over the line then, it will be 2:21.4, his current best, and it looks like the lap does not do much, but it does improve. A 2:20.9, that is good enough for 19th position at the moment. Maybe a bit more needs to be in the offing as David Burns goes even quicker. 2:18.985 is the margin at the moment to beat, and look at the train that's being dragged along. Primed on the back is Just Jonk. That is the perfect place to be. We've got Ludwig Sauer and Jeff Randall, who both want to gain those places, as Alexander Wilfert now moves up into 7th. Just Jonk needs a lap here, and it's going to be a case of Checkered's going to come out in about 5 seconds. He's only got one opportunity left. Open qualifying here with the absolute beginners, and that means one thing. You start a lap, you're allowed to finish it.
Indeed you are. I think Josh Brain may have just gotten himself over the line in time. He'll come in 6th place. Jonk right now does look pretty quick. He's tracking at about 0.7 of a second faster on his previous laps. Kai Alpstead there able to improve, though that's not going to get his position up anywhere. Nicholas Anderson is not going to be able to set a time. Benjamin Harris says, nope, that's it for me. I'm going to come on into the pits, as we're now looking again at Nenad Ulip coming around right now. Ulip currently sat in the 16th position. He's going to abandon that as well. So it looks like the next up here is going to be all the way back. Thomas Kick, currently sitting in 22nd position, although he is looking for a good lap here. He's about 1.2 seconds up on his best time.
And you sort of feel for Thomas Kick in this situation. He's like someone who's just missed their train running after it down the platform right now. He's going to be missing out on so much on the top end because of how this track works, because of how this car is so aerodynamically efficient when it comes to the laps. Here is the Vidal chicane, heavy clattering of the first curb, nice and neat on the second, goes full Tony Hawk mode over that outside curb, going for that final section of track through the Hyundai N-curve and making a charge over towards the line. We will see what this time is for Thomas Kick in the number 44, is down in 22nd at the moment. That's much better, up to P14, but Yonk is heading through the final corner.
Is indeed. It looks like he was tracking very quick, and indeed he's going to go a little bit faster there, about 0.7 of a second. That'll bump his way up to 5th as Geoff Randall and Ludwig Sauer swap positions for a second, then backed off. David Burns into the pits, so he is not going to be setting a new lap here. Christopher Crook improving by 2 positions up into 9th.
Look at Vincent Brame. He has somehow found 5th place.
Oh my goodness gracious, a great run there for Vincent, the Benelux driver, bumping his way up into 5th. Looks like the last driver waiting on Van den Bergen. A great lap there for Van den Bergen. He is going to steal pole position.
18.6, 3/10 clear of everyone else. Fantastic.
An incredible run to pip the pole at the end for Gordon Van den Bergen. But let's jump over to that grid as our drivers grid up. You heard our excitement. Gordon Van den Bergen, a newcomer here in the series, is going to take pole position away from David Third Degree Burns. George Matuszynski's going to line up 3rd with Geoff Randall in 4th. Ludwig Sauer 5th, followed by Vincent Breme. In row 4, it is your championship leader, Jost Young, to the inside, followed by Wojciech Podacek in 8th place. Josh Brain and Benjamin Harris will round out your top 10.
We look on further down. Row 6 will see Christopher Crook and Alexander Wilfert there, with Christopher Guerros and JT Koppinen 13th and 14th. Andre Salander starts this one from 15th alongside Thomas Kick, 220.262 there, with Tony Hayes and Remco Pleitschia there in 18th place. Top 20 will be run out by Nenad Ulip and Christian Gruler.
Robert Anderson will be starting off in 21st, followed by Titus de Jong with Stefan Krayer and Mackenzie Mann behind them. Klaus Loden and Kai Alfsed will make up row 13 with Nicholas Anderson, the last driver to set a time, and AJ Campbell in 28th.
What an incredible grid that we have here. It's 2 minutes to grid up, or they start from pit lane. And of course, that run to turn 1 could be so very, very vital. It narrows on that section, DJ. And I tell you what, it might just be a case of not who makes it through turn 1, but who survives it.
Exactly. It's going to be very, very tricky to make sure to get it right. And remember, the odd number positions, the better positions, they're actually starting on the outside, but that is a bit of a preferred line going down into that Yokohama S, getting it lined up, waiting for the last couple of drivers here to get onto the grid as the timer ticks down. There it is. The lights are on. Engines start to harmonize as we wait for it to get going. And there it is. We are green here at the Nürburgring. It's a decent start for Van den Bergen, but that's Matuszynski looking like he's got a good run. Burns trying to challenge up the inside as they dive down into the first corner. Van den Bergen going defensive, holding off Burns. It looks like they're going to get through there relatively cleanly in the front row. 3-4 wide as they cycle through the field. Many different lines coming in. Burns trying to hold off onto that second place position as Matuszynski still fights him through the Mercedes-Benz arena. I think Burns is going to be able to hold him off, and indeed he is, as they start to get out of it. A big wiggle there for Gordon Van den Bergen, but no real calamity. Your top 4 as they exit Mercedes is going to be Gordon Van den Bergen, David Burns, Georg Matuszynski, Geoff Randall, and Vincent Brame.
Van den Bergen with a really good start, covering everything that's needed to, and continues to after that Goodyear straight. Moving on through. Pretty decent start as well from Yonkers. Here comes the move for 4th position. It's Ludwig Sauer losing out then. Geoff Randall is deciding to get aggressive in the early goings. You want to make positions early here to settle down into a rhythm. Yonk in control of where it needs to be. P6 could be getting a good job done. In fact, that was Vincent Brame there who was moving up to 4th. So 7th is doing the job, but it's the bare minimum right now for Just Jonk, who will want to get aggressive and is doing so right now as we look at Gordon van der Bergen here moving up the hill, some side by side going through the S's there as Josh Brain on the back now of Jonk will be trying to get through with Ludwig Sauer in full defense.
An absolute full defense, and you saw a little bit of spiciness there out of our leaders as well. Wow, I have to say Van der Bergen doing some very, very defensive driving, but we keep our eyes focused here. That is Sauer leading Jonk. Jonk's going to want to try to get his way forward. I've got to think he's not going to want to push too hard here and run into an incident, but he also wants to make sure he's into it, and that's going to be David Third Degree Burns making an uncharacteristic early move to the inside of Van der Bergen, going down into the Vidal chicane. Oh, that is, I believe, Randall around.
It is, and I think, yes, it's Ludwig Sauer who has made contact there. The hit going through on the brakes, lap 1. You always don't quite know where you're making that contact there, and it's as simple as you try and make the section, you've outbroken yourself, and really a one moment where they check up Ludwig Sauer. You can't really look otherwise. That was all on him.
But we've got to move for the lead. That's Gordon van der Bergen going down to the inside of David Burns as they make their way into the Yokohama S. Looks like there's going to be a bit of outbraking, but Burns trying to fight back a little bit around the outside. Matuszynski thought about a move there coming in. There you see the defensive lines. Burns going a little bit wider, trying to maximize momentum as they work their way through the Mercedes-Benz arena. Really fighting it hard here. Ooh. That is Jonk there on the back of your screen. He is caught up to the leading group.
Yeah, there's been a moment actually at turn number 1. JT Koppinen missing the rear wing, got a tag from behind. Not quite sure who it was in the end. There were 3 wide on the exit. I think it was Tony Hayes in the 75 who grabbed the back, but ultimately not good in the middle of the pack. Front of the pack, though, remaining as vigilant as ever. We continue with some amazing action down the hill. Van den Bergen doing just enough at this stage to hold it all together, but David Burns knows he's got title aspirations and wants to move up as quickly as he possibly can.
Most certainly, Jake, and I think this is going to be a little bit of a different side of David Burns. Whoa, that's Brim getting very feisty going down through the Goodyear curve. Maybe a little bit of contact there with Matuszynski as he tries to work his way forward. Not going to have it doing there, backs off a little bit. But in regards to Burns, we're used to seeing him wait back and hold off for as long as possible. But I'm seeing a lot more aggression from him early in this race. As you said, this is all about the title. He knows he has to win, so he wants to push forward as much as he can. Little bit of a lockup there up in the front from Gordon van der Bergen as Matuszynski looking a little bit aggressive there on Burns.
Yeah, and the more that they check up, the more they're bringing people into the party, which is exactly what David Burns wants. Like his former compatriot and namesake Richard Burns, he'll be certainly hoping for a little bit of rally action as Matuszynski now moves to the inside, heading to the Vidal, but you can run that outside line, and it covers the move through the big right, and again, opening the door up for a bit of side-by-side action here. Jonk looking in at Vincent Brame, who's going down the inside of Matuszynski here into the final corner, but as we have said, it brings the group together once more. Potaget's on the back, so is Josh Brain, so is Benjamin Harris there in the party, and they know every lap that they fight side by side, the more that they are going to get very dicey and the more likely there is to be an incident. And if you are David Burns in the 125, you're hoping that car 13 gets itself involved. Look down to the inside from Vincent Brame. He's not going to get there.
No, that was almost an overly aggressive move there from Brame a little bit, but he was able to keep everything nice and under him. Matuszynski able to hold him off relatively well. Looks like Van den Bergen's able to get a little bit of a better run coming out of the Mercedes-Benz arena, keep everything at bay, and Burns may now find himself under pressure from Matuszynski. Everybody else behind staying relatively single file. This is the kind of racing we come to expect from Formula Neagle. A lot of just simple back and forth, waiting until those closing laps to get very crazy.
And we see how every single time we go through this middle sector of the lap, it is going to be a case of who is brave enough to poke their nose out, stick it down the inside, and try and make a little bit of a gap. It can so easily fall foul if you are not careful. And speaking of falling foul, the second group's just had a big moment. Christopher Crook got smashed behind by Alexander Wilford going through the right, and as such, he'll be struggling now to get that back up to speed again.
Yes, he will. We're going to go back and check out this replay. Ooh, nice little bump there for him.
Well, it was more of a big hit before, which caused the secondary action. So they exit the arena, go through the lefts and rights, the former Valvoline and Ford curves. You can see their second car is Christopher Crook, who goes down the inside. He checks up. Car behind him doesn't. He takes the first tap. Nowhere to go on the inside. There's the second tap going through. So Christopher has a lot of work to do to get back up through the order.
Yes, indeed, trying to work his way back up, and he's going to have his work cut out for him. Behind, as they dive into that corner, you can see some very squirrely cars. Wojciech Podacek able to get his way up into 5th place right now, keeping an eye on that positive hornet's nest that is going on there, and that is the battle for P5. Just Junk ahead of them, kind of running in a little bit of an island of his own here at the moment.
Yeah, and that island is crucial. Burns, fastest lap of the race then as he chases. But here comes Matushinsky into turn 1, just in front of this battle here with Brame and co. as they dive down in towards turn number 1. Brame going to hold off Potterjek there, as you can see a bit more side-by-side. Josh Brame in the mock-up Jordan, trying to get as much as possible out of the track. Not going to get too much there, but they have just allowed to islandize, if that's even a word, use Yonk at this moment. He's got about 1.42 of the cars in front, about a second to the cars behind, and you'd say exactly where you want to be. There's no cars around me. I'm just going to drive my own race.
Exactly, and for Junk, as you said in the beginning, 7th or better nets him that championship, so he's going to be perfectly okay to ride in that position. That was Podacek there trying to have a little bit of a look as they made their way down through those sweeping chicanes. Matuszynski up in front, running a little bit of a defensive line. Not sure exactly what he was trying to do with that, but he's going to tuck back into line. We continue to follow there the leaders. Looks like Matuszynski got a tighter exit off of the corner. Again, he's ducking out of the draft of Gordon Vandenbergen. Not entirely sure what the strategy is there, but it's certainly allowing him to keep very close behind at that number 50.
I think the key here is that he doesn't want to lift up through the Schumacher S. It gives him room to attack potentially in towards a corner like Ravenel. Doesn't happen on this lap, but it's about timing a run in a car like this. And Matuszynski, who has been around the business, knows how this car works, knows that you do not want to be right underneath on the exit of a corner when you can use the slingshot really strongly to your advantage. Burns right behind is going to get that double toe up on the run towards that Vidal chicane. But once again, Matuszynski's looking to try and just get a little aggressive. 1, 2, and 3 line astern as they enter the chicane, and a big slide from Gordon Vandenbergen. They're up in the front of the field. The number 50 car is clearly pushing, taking a slightly wider line to open the exit.
And this is the position that we're used to seeing David third-degree Burns in. Holding back, waiting, being a little bit softer with that right foot, doing a little bit of lifting and coasting, and maybe trying to go for a bit of an overcut as Matuszynski goes down to the inside. Vincent Breme setting the fastest lap of the race, but this could be a pass for the lead, and indeed it is. Matuszynski up ahead into the lead, demoting Gordon Vandenbergen down into 2nd. Burns still stalking closely behind in that chrome machine.
And let's talk about that second pack just for a moment. Because of Vincent Brame's fastest lap of the race, he now brings the gap straight back to Just Jonk. So Jonk has now got 5 cars once again, all hungry, trying to find a way on by. And well, to pardon the pun of the livery, there is a monster behind trying to get through.
Yeah, there certainly is, and Eustace's got to be a little bit careful. He runs the risk of maybe getting a train run on him if he does allow them by, so I wouldn't be surprised here if he gets a little bit defensive, trying to prevent Breme from really making too aggressive of a move on him. He's comfortable right now in that 4th place position, but he's got to watch out not to fall too far down the order and run the risk of losing out on that championship.
Yeah, and as we know, there are a couple of bonus points as well, so they're going to be crucial. Wide line from Jonk coming out of the exit. It's going to open the door up for Vincent Breme, who is trying every which way to find that overtake. The mock-up Rothmans, Williams there, late or mid-90s, I would say. Williams just behind will be trying to find a way through, and now there's a little bit of those connection issues coming into play, but the side-by-side still remains for Breme, who just lifts out of it there into the Ravenel corner. Doesn't want to attack this one too early. Looks to get a great run off the exit, but so short is the run between Ravenel and Bilstein. It is a case of not going to get it. And 4 of the 5 drivers there running it off the road on that right-hander there of Bilstein on the exit. Big power move from Brame to the inside. He was all over that curb. He clattered it as he tried to attack and get that inside line.
I'm slightly amazed that he didn't pick up an off track for that. There they go down into the corner. Yonk having to slot in behind, and indeed, just as I said, a little bit of a train run on him there, losing 2 positions, demoting himself to 6th. So he's getting closer and closer to that danger zone. He's got to watch out for Josh Brain and Benjamin Harris behind him as they now make their way on to the main straightaway. All these drivers sitting here, this is going to be the prime opportunity for the draft. Matuszynski continues to lead, and he currently has the fastest lap of the race. That's a big pull out there behind. In that pack behind them, I believe that's Wilfred and Giros as they're squabbling around a little bit. Nothing going to do there. I think it was just Wilfred trying to, or Harris rather, trying to be a little bit defensive. And that pack in the middle, though, everyone continuing to run single file, ticking down under 28 minutes to go here in this race. Everything looking like it's calming down for the moment, but this may be the eye in the middle of the storm.
I'd certainly agree. This is the calming period of the race. This is effectively the do business style of race. You have your opening exchanges, which can get very heated, can get very hot under the collar, but you get yourself down into a stage where you can just sit back, relax. Okay, this is the intermediary where we try and get close to what we want, and then there's that flurry at the finish, which we often get in this series. So I think settling down now, getting a couple laps to assess the lay of the land isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. 2 who aren't necessarily doing that at the moment is Nenad Ulip and Stefan Krea at this point in time, a little bit further down the battle for 14th and 15th positions on the road. You can see they are pretty much nose to tail heading into that Goodyear corner, and it's the outside line searching. Try and diamond off on the exit might be the way for Stefan Krea there to really make that challenge back, but at least for the time being, it is all about patience. You've got to set it up, but that damage there you can see on the rear wing, that is certainly not helping car 34.
No, Crayer definitely going to be suffering from that, specifically in a straight line, and you can see it there, just how much time he loses when they get onto the loud pedal for an extended period of time. And you can also see riding on that roll hoop just how much that car is slipping and sliding. He is really having to use all of his skill to make sure that rear end doesn't completely slide away from him there. So while he may be losing some time, definitely a testament to car control here for Stefan Crayer. I've got to give him kudos.
You absolutely do. Staying in the range is half of the battle here at the Nürburgring, especially in these skip barbers through the left and the right looking to attack. Burns now goes and lights up the timing sheets purple as things go. It looks like there's going to be a move on for 4th position in the meanwhile as well, because Vincent Brame has just lost that 4th position under brakes. Through goes Wojtek Potaszek then up into the 4th positions. We look at 3rd, 2nd and 1st. Burns there in that 3rd position doing exactly what is needed to at the moment, and they're just running their race, and quietly so they managed to pull out 0.8 of a second on that last lap from that group. They know, and especially David Burns in the 125, if I don't have to worry about 4 or 5 more cars behind, I can focus on just getting through 2 cars in front.
Exactly. He can focus on that and focus forward on a potential pit stop. And speaking of those pit stops, we've had our first taker here today. Andre Salander coming in here on lap 7, but 25 laps to go. There you can see back on his way from service. Now, we've seen drivers in the past attempt an undercut like this, but a lot of the time it hasn't worked out to the effect that they would really hope for. A lot of the times when these undercuts go, you lose a draft buddy, you lose the ability to stick behind and gain speed on the straightaways, which is so crucial to maximizing a lap here in these skip barbers.
Well, it's a case of swings and roundabouts, and I'm sure you meant 25 minutes at that point in time, but you can see how they swarm behind. This is the other side of it that you're seeing. If you start seeing cars around you fighting, you're going to be losing all that time that you would get naturally taking your racing line, driving as you would a time trial, for example. It's very, very different and can be a challenge. Up the hill goes Burns, Vandenbergen, and then Matuszynski up at the front. George Gordon and David Burns all looking there, and it looks like Vandenbergen is just quietly sitting there and waiting, because this is a strategy game that they're playing. As wide's going to go Matuszynski coming out to the final corner. He's got away with that one over the curbs. He dipped quite a few tyres there into that grass. What you want to be doing is actually sending someone out onto the front like it would be, say, the Tour de France or what's going on right now, La Vuelta a España. So you're trying to run out that driver of fuel, run that car in front out of energy so that you have an advantage in that pit stop.
Exactly, and another taker on those pit stop, Christopher Giros, coming on into the pits as we watch a little bit of a battle there. I believe that was Vincent Bream, that was Just Young poking his nose this way and back. Bream very close to the back of Wojciech Podacek, spacing out a little bit as they make their way through the Yokohama S. There is Giros, the Scandinavian driver of the 36 machine, coming to rest in his stall. Obviously not going up on jacks here, only fuel in this series. You mentioned it at the top, Jake. These guys can run for hours upon hours on these tires.
They absolutely can. You can see the tread on them. They are all weather tires as well. They've got the slick grooves in the middle, and then they've got on the outside good enough action for clearing that water. And for those wondering, hey, iRacing doesn't have rain, why is there water clearing on those tires? Well, apparently sometime either end of this year, early next year, there might be something that you might like. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But at least at this point in time, you know that this is going to be important, and especially for that group. That stop by Geros, they brought the gap down, Alexander Vilfert, down to 2 seconds to that group. Making that stop now, if they stay out long, continue to fight the likes of Brahim and Potashek and co., they are going to be in a world of trouble because the undercut could be a very, very distinct possibility.
It certainly could. And there we see Bram closing in again on Podacek. This is continuing to be tight. The leaders staying in order and being relatively calm, but this trailing pack looking a little bit more aggressive. I believe that was Podacek kicking up a little bit of dirt coming out of the exit there on the Bilstein curve. Now making their way through Advan as they go around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, running very close together again. Brim very, very close behind that machine of Podacek. Not making the move down into Vidal. That's a hard area to make an opportunity, but oh, that is Podacek. Podacek going very, very wide, and we've got another taker into the pits. I believe that's Josh Brain diving on in.
Good decision. Starts to get a little hectic there. The mock-up Jordan makes that decision. It's a late commitment cone here as well. You've got to be absolutely on the brakes. It is just a 61, 62 kilometer an hour pit lane speed. For mile an hour, I can't necessarily do that translation in the top of my head, but at least for Josh Brain, he knows exactly that he needed to come in, make that stop, and cover off any move from behind. I think that's a really good call as they continue to be feisty in that battle.
Yeah, he'll hopefully be able to gain some time here. That's also Alexander Wilfert coming in behind him as well. So going for the undercut the best that they can, seeing what that will play out. There you see Christopher Giros, I believe that is the driver who has already come in. Let's see where he slots out in relation to those drivers. There you can see Brain already on his way, and it looks like Wilfert will also be out ahead of Giros, so they're able to maintain that for now. As we now wait here, ticking down with under 2 minutes and 30 seconds, or 20 minutes and 30 seconds to go, just about halfway through. Whoa, big overrun there from Gordon Vandenbergen, almost into the back of your leader, George Matuszynski.
Yeah, Vandenbergen doing a very good job to pull the car up, but he's all over the back now as they go up the hill. Slow stop in the end it was for Christopher Giros there, so that's the reason why it was all in trouble as he struggles with Nicholas, son of Anders, as he goes through his race. But Vandenbergen just sitting there on the back again, happy to sit underneath the gearbox, so to speak, and not make that move. But I tell you who's been the most coy in all of this, who hasn't made a ploy for the race lead since the opening couple of laps. It is, of course, David Burns, who I think is biding his time, saving the fuel and hoping to leapfrog everybody in the stop.
I think you're completely right about that one. Burns, once again, just showing how coy and cagey he can be on these laps, being very, very cautious, not taking any overly aggressive moves. He is counting backwards from the end of the race, rather. All three leaders opting not to dive into the pits here. Same with the trailing pack. So your top 7 all choosing to stay out. Continue to keep our eyes focused on that leading group. Little bit of a poke to the inside for Gordon Vandenbergen. there. He's looking a little bit, not going to do anything. I think that would be a late move for him if he decides to go for it. Just keeping things together. Again, Burns just waiting and watching.
Waiting and watching, but you can see Matushinsky struggling for any form of turn in there through the opening corner there. That big descent down the hill in through the arena. Now 2 is off camber, 3 is very difficult, and you can see how quickly you can run into troubles. Very contrasting lines. You've got to try and maximize as much as you can out of 4. It's only a 90-degree right hand and maybe 100 degrees, but it feels like it is so much more than that as they take the run on the Goodyear straight through to the next left and right on circuit here, descending down the hill onto the Mullenbach-Schleif here portion of the circuit. Not much to be done at the moment, but again, it's clear to see that Matushinsky is using a lot more of the track than Van der Bergen is, who is just keeping quiet and doing exactly what he needs to. Sit, be patient, because it looks like watching a jack in the box at the moment, the way Matushinsky's driving.
Yeah, I think he's definitely feeling the pressure coming in from Van den Bergen. Very much feeling it. And Van den Bergen, those pokes to the inside and the outside that we've talked about, I think that's a little bit of him just filling the rear view mirrors of that 74 machine, trying to get him off his game a little bit, hoping he'll miss an apex or miss a braking point here and there. And that would be the moment for Van den Bergen to strike, as would it be for David third-degree Burns. Both drivers here just keeping everything together the best that they can as they make their way out of the Bilstein curve, taking advantage of that draft again, heading towards Advent.
Yeah, and that draft is going to be crucial. You are heading up the hill. You need as much of it as you can get. 183 kilometers an hour before lisking onto the brakes through the lefts and rights, and another clattering at the curb, and that's a take for the lane. 1 take to the lane, 2 takes to the lane then. Top 2, Matushinsky and Van den Bergen are going to dive for the lane together. Burns is going to stay out and continue to be a yardstick for that second group, who again have decided not to take that pull into the lane. It's going to be an interesting battle here, and not just any battle, a battle of pit crews.
Indeed, and interesting to note here, Matushinsky and Van den Bergen, relatively newcomers here to the series, and most of the other leaders right here in the form of Burns, Yonk, Bream, Harris, they are all old, wily veterans. So we could see a little bit of youth and inexperience getting played against that long history here in the league. We'll have to see what it plays. Now, watching the pit crews, both drivers came to rest at a good point in their box, waiting to see how they come out on pit stops. It's about 14 seconds for both of them. That's a right about average for it. Matushinsky able to get out a little bit ahead and a little bit farther ahead than Van den Bergen, but Van den Bergen's certainly going to be close enough to be able to pull back in that draft.
Here's the issue with trying to fill this car up right now. In terms of, let's say, kayfabe, so to speak, it's not a case of they're filling the car up with a pump, DJ. They're filling it up with a jug. And it's very difficult to work out by the gallons how much fuel you put in. So when you put it into that level of respect, that's why you're seeing either 12 or 14-second stops, because there is a difference between how much fuel you can put in with the slosh of a jug.
Exactly, and that's part of the strategy that does make this series so incredible to watch. It's all about the mental games that you're playing here. Focusing back in on that battle for what is now P2. Hodacek there going a little bit back to the racing line, driving a little bit defensive as they make their way through the corners. Jung stalking behind. Bream looking like he's got a pretty decent run if he wants it, but they make their way now out of those curves headed towards Advan. I don't think we'd see any passes here, as I'd imagine that pit stops are coming shortly.
Well, there was a pass on that last lap. This place exactly. Does Bream go back against Yonk, trying to attack for it? Was looking on the outside line, not the conventional way to do it. So backs out of it when he realizes you're going to shut that door on me and I'm not going to like it. 1 goes in, 2 goes in, 3 goes in. Yonk is going to stay out. Leader David Burns in the pits. Now, this is going to be a crucial lap here. Yonk, longest of anyone who is staying out, but it is worth keeping an eye out on who is out there and who is not right now, because Josh Brain is the big marker for everybody in that second group.
He is indeed. And Josh Brain right now currently circulating in 10th. He is making his way right now, it looks like, through the Hyundai curve. So let's see where he'll come out in relation to these leaders. There is Matuszynski on your screen. He's another one that has come in and out. I'm watching David Third Degree Burns right now as he is on his way in the pit stall. It's gonna be close. He was faster in the pits. I think he's got Matuszynski.
Easy as pie. Braking zone for turn number 1. He's not going to be clear by a second. That's the crucial fact. But Matuszynski here has done well. Vandenbergen really struggled on that outlap. And that's why you see, going back, Brain has leapfrogged everybody in that second group. Potterjek is behind, as is Harris. Brain side by side with Wilfert for position now as they fight hard through the arena, and every single battle's crucial. Now you've got to wonder, there's almost contact there between Brain and also Wilfert, as there was just enough avoidance there. Maybe a tap of tyres they went through. Question now, where does Jonk fall out in all of this?
Yeah, that's going to be the real question. We saw the advantage that Burns was able to get over Matuszynski. Oh, that's off for Bream. Able to catch it. How did he do that? The rear tire's off into the grass.
Not the first time we've seen it here today. We're going to catch it on a replay, but that's just a case of overcompensating, getting thrown out of the rhythm. We just catch it right after the tire tap there on the left-hand side, the front left. Now you want to be aggressive, you want to get back into position, you want to attack, and you might miss your braking zone by 5 or 10 meters. It can be that margin alone. You can see drifting the car in and always had control of it. Just gets on that little section of, I would say, grass there on the outside. Very similar to Brands Hatch, as in comes Joost Jonk from the race lead.
Indeed he does. So this is the moment of truth here for Joost Jonk. If he is able to catch up to the leaders. As he dove in, the gap was hovering around 25 or so seconds. We're normally seeing about 38 seconds cone to cone in the pits. So I don't think he's going to be able to fully leapfrog, but he may be able to get close. Burns there, you see him coming out of that final chicane. The Vidal chicane making his way into the Hyundai curve right now. Jonk at rest in his box. Here it comes. Where will Jonk come out? Will he be able to stay above that crucial 7th place position?
I think it's likely that he will, and it's going to be very interesting to see it. So the top 2 have gone through. Fastest lap for Matuszynski at this moment in time, who is right on the back. There is Jonk exiting the pits right now. That's Josh Brain, who's gone through into 4th position. That's Potterjek then fighting it once. So this is a fight for 5th and 6th as they go through. Potterjek forced to take that outside line, and it's not over and done with yet then, you would say, or argue, for that driver of Joost Jonk. He knows that he is in a race, and one moment, a lapse in concentration, it can be all over. The marker is Alexander Wilfert in 8th place.
Exactly, and that 5th place for Jonk will get him the championship, but he's got to be consistent. So at this point, I think that's what he's focused on. But here, we are going to focus back in on our leader and the driver who just set the fastest lap of the race, George Matuszynski. There you can see Gordon Vandenbergen behind them, really losing out a bit in the pit stop cycle, even though he had roughly the same time cone to cone and stationary in the box as the driver he pitted with, George Matuszynski. So Matuszynski here now trying to fight for what I believe would be his first win in the series over multiple-time winner and multiple champion David Burns.
It's as easy as that, isn't it? Multiple champion, multiple wins, and you're the upstart who's coming in to try and ruin the title battle party. I'm sure that Matuszynski is racing this one for pride. He wants to get a good result. He's going to force David Burns to work hard for it, and you can tell that he is pushing. There was a lot of gap over that last lap closed into this one, because Matuszynski knew that if he got himself within 1 second, he could close up using the draft where it is at its most strongest. Again, looks really, really nice here. Staying in range then on the outside. Not going to make a move just yet, but all that fuel saving in the first stint from David Burns, that's going to be nothing. They're on equal fuel loads right now, looking to charge for the end, and Matuszynski is going to do the age-old adage, run your opponent's tank dry with 9.5.
Yeah, exactly. Just keep pushing as hard as he can. The one problem he's going to have, though, is that David Burns always cool under pressure. Very rarely have we seen the driver of that 125 crack at all, but here comes Matuszynski. He's got a good run going down the start-finish straight. He's going to poke his nose to the inside. Burns, I think, is going to let him have it, lifting a little bit early, and indeed, Matuszynski's going to be ahead at the first corner.
At the first corner, though, is the word that we use because it's not at the checkered flag. Was it wise to make this move so early for Matuszynski? Does that give David Burns the adage here of just sitting on the back, saving any fuel that he may have underfueled the car to get that lead and get that jump? Those are the questions that we are asking at this point in time. There are some great battles up and down the order. Christopher Geros, then Vincent Brame, Alexander Vilfert, 8th, 9th and 10th at the moment. Could be a crucial one right now, because if they're not working together, they're not catching that 2.7 gap to Benjamin Harrison 7th.
Yeah, they're going to need to be a little bit thinking about this like an oval race, playing leapfrog as much as they can, if at all possible. But at this point, ticking down here with just about 8 minutes to go, they're going to have to get on that very quickly if they want to try to catch down Wilford.
I certainly agree, and they know that Wilford here is just doing enough at the moment to hold station, keep this position nice and calm. Nothing really to worry about. They've got 2 seconds to Ludwig Sauer behind in that 12th place, so that's maybe one thing in the back of their minds that they are really on focus for. And I'll tell you what's another distraction here for Just Jonk in his race right now. It is the fact that the car behind of Wojtek Potaszek has been having those internet blips in that race. Okay, when you have that behind you, you don't quite exactly know where the car is behind, which is just blinking in and out from time to time. And we do have to preface this is on occasion. It does get distracting, and you could have that one lap. But Potaszek here, happy to get alongside or get close to the back, but not happy to make the overtake just yet. I think this is some last lap stuff, and this will only allow Benjamin Harris onto the train.
I have to agree with that, and that can be a little bit frightening for Just Jonk, but thankfully Harris running in 7th. That is the last position Jonk can be in and still lock down this championship. So he's not going to be out of the woods with that, and that will be in his mind, rest assured. So we watch these drivers making their way down the straight. Potaszek thinking about maybe making a move there, but staying back into line. Christopher Geros back in 10th place, setting the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, and that just shows you how powerful the draft is. Here comes a move, though, for 8th place as Vincent Brame gets down the inside, gets the move sorted on Wilford, who tries a switchback. They're very Schumacher-like with the late move, but ultimately slides through turn 2, compromises Geros' run after that purple lap on the last run, an 18-1, and as such, they will stay in line after that. So a great move from Vincent Brame. We know he's got the pace. We know he's an aggressive style of driver, but we know that those aggressive styles of moves, while they look flashy and they look pretty, they are very time-consuming.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing you don't want at this point. You want to get that move done and get forward, but it's going to cost you time in doing so, and at this point, all time is of the essence. You need to be trying to work your way forward at all costs, not sending out a flashy move.
Yeah, I certainly agree as we focus then in towards this brilliant Goodyear hairpin. Very long right, going up the hill, using some of the camber to your advantage and attack off of the curb on the exit. It's real here for Christopher Geros, who wants to try and find a way past Alexander Vilfert, and he's really attacking up this Schumacher S. If you want to run, you're going to have to decide, are you left or you right? Are you left or you right? Well, you committed right, and ultimately it is nicely covered. That is some great driving from Vilfert there. That is a case of being a track general and deciding where you want your opponent to go.
Exactly. There is so much funneling. Goes, ooh, that's a little bit of a wide run there for Vincent Brame. Maybe that's going to open up an opportunity for Wilford to make their way down.
Because as well in front, Just Jonk under pressure now.
Oh, indeed, and there goes Potaszek. Oh, but Potaszek misses the chicane. That's going to be a slowdown penalty for sure. He gets off to the outside, and that's going to be Jonk taking that position back, re-securing that 5th place for him.
That is the one move that you get in a race, that one opportunity. We'll catch it here with the Global SimRacing Channel replay. He set that up absolutely beautifully. Got to the inside, got everything he wanted, lined it up on a plate. The one thing he forgot to do was get it slowed under brakes. He was sliding through trying to get it stopped, decided that he couldn't commit to the chicane and went straight on. Now, I wonder here with Potashek if he was worried about spinning the car and had to straighten it back out to jump over that chicane.
I think that may be exactly what happened there. And now you see the gap that he is going to have to try to make back up here and work his way back forward, if at all possible. Going to be very, very difficult for him to do so, though, here at this point.
Oh, you can see the leading two are sliding through the corners right now. It's almost like it's Togay at this point in time, and they're up in the Ibisu Hills of Japan, the way that they're sliding these skip barbers around this circuit. It's some fantastic efforts that we have seen from these two, and they both know that this is going to be about the finish. Who is going to be in position on the final lap, and who dares be aggressive? You can see the time on the clock right now is 3 minutes and 18 seconds. By my reckoning, this is either 1 or 2 laps, depending. Probably with the time on the clock, it is going to be very dicey whether we see those laps coming into fruition.
Indeed it will, and if we run an extra lap here, we may run into a situation where drivers under-fueled, slightly not preparing for it, and that could throw a real wrench into the works, and that could maybe cause a very unexpected play out as drivers may run out of fuel. 2 minutes and 45 seconds to go in the race. Burns waiting in line. I've got to imagine he's not going to want to make a move here until the final race, final lap. He's probably waiting for that time to tick down as well. Here they come down through Hyundai, working it along. A lot of curbing there for Matuszynski. Almost got the car unsettled as they work their way down through. Here they come across the line. 2:25. Drivers are running about a 2:18 lap time. They're going to cross the line here. This is going to be awfully close. It's going to be 2 to go. 2 to go here. So now we have to think about fuel strategy. Did these drivers save enough? Do they have enough for an extra lap?
Well, if they, gentlemen's agreement at this point in time, they were 3 seconds short over the line. If they waited and backed off for about 3 seconds, which they have that margin, they could make it. But, of course, they're racers, so no, they're not. They're going to race all the way, force everybody to do an extra lap. And I tell you what, an extra lap helps the car in the 74 more than the 125. Burns, remember, was about 1.5 seconds quicker in his pit stop.
He was indeed, but David Third Degree Burns is also known for being able to save a lot of fuel. So let's see if he tries to make the push here. I'm keeping an eye on the rest of the drivers in the field to see if there are any of them trying to save as much fuel as possible. Burns not looking aggressive here. He knows he's got one more lap. I don't think he's going to want to try to make a move here on this penultimate lap. Doesn't want to be leading by the time they go down. He wants to be in the best position to try to get the slingshot on the white flag lap.
It's about aggro. Who wants to be the most aggro in these final stages of the race? Burns knows that it's got to be a victory. Nothing else matters right now. He's got to set up Matuszynski, who maybe even might do the oops, I ran wide, here's the race lead sort of strategy, but I doubt we'll see that, as that's always an option, sliding about through the corner. It's like watching an octopus in a washing machine right now, watching Matuszynski drive.
Love that expression, Jake, but you're completely right. He is just trying to hold on to whatever he can. Coming now down through Advan, you can see Burns starting to close, dipping out of the slipstream a little bit. I think that is a decision to try to not carry too much speed into the corner, set himself up a little bit better. Burns late on the brakes. He's clearly got the speed going down through Vidal, and now they make their way through the Hyundai curve, coming to the white flag. It's now or never time for Burns, and it's now time to see who are the drivers that prepared for this extra lap and who is going to be caught out.
This is the key, and I think the setup has just about come into play. Burns tucked up underneath, hoping that the move is going to see. Just in the back of shot, you can see Yonk is in full defensive sway, serpentining like it's Indianapolis Motor Speedway, trying to shake off drivers. There's a 3-car train behind in 8th place, fighting hard for it. It's pretty much on everywhere. Championship nowhere near decided. Benjamin Harris here has got to figure out a move, whether he wants this place or not, and how cleanly can that move be done, because it's only 4 seconds, or 5 seconds I should say, between Yonk and Brame, which is the magic number that Burns needs if he should win this race.
Exactly. One little mess up could collect a couple of these drivers and send everything into a pandemonium here. There is that 8th place. That is where Just Junk would need to finish, but Bream running very, very wide there on the exit of the Mercedes-Benz Arena. We want to keep focusing, though, on our leaders. This is David Burns chasing down Matuszynski. We've seen the run he's been able to have out of Bilstein and down into the Vidal chicane. Keeps everything nice and close, going through the Goodyear corner. There he is, right behind him. He's got to keep it tight through the Schumacher S, or as you said earlier, the Schumacher's S. There he goes, gaining ground the whole time.
It's so strong, and this could be the setup here. It's defended on that inside by Matuszynski, but this isn't the place for David Burns. He wants to set it up one more time through the left. Big correction through the corner, gathers it up. It's only costed him a half a tenth through this section. He'll be okay for the moment, and now this is the place. You've got to set this one up the hill. Ad Van Bogen, Vidal is the destination.
It is indeed a little bit of counter steering, though, for Burns as he came out of that corner. Oh, a little bit of a pinch there from Matuszynski. They're going to be side by side as they go down into the Vidal chicane. Who's going to be later on the brakes? Burns is able to keep it around the outside. The track will shift back to him right now. Matuszynski gives him room. He's got to hope that he can keep it out there. Starts to lose a little bit of ground as they come into the Hyundai curve. Burns again behind. He's got to hope he can maybe get some amazing run off of the corner. He's going to go for it. Not enough, it looks like. I think this is going to be George Matuszynski's race, and indeed it is Matuszynski to the flag. He's able to take the victory. David Burns behind him. George Vandenbergen is going to be third, followed by Josh Brame, and crucially, Just Junk in 5th will claim yet another championship for the Junkyard Dog.
It was always going to be an uphill battle for David Burns. Give credit to him. He's given absolutely everything here today in the 125. Played the strategy to perfection. The one thing he didn't have was enough drive out of the Vidal chicane to pick up the W. But Just Junk, that is as Alain Prost as I have ever seen it. Knew the numbers that he needed, was having to drive on his B and C game here today, and that was enough for the title.
Absolutely incredible. We are going to take a break here on the Global SimRacing Channel, but don't go anywhere because we will have the unofficial results as well as interview with your leaders here today. And that'll all be coming up in just a short couple of minutes. Welcome back to the Nürburgring after a fierce battle across this historic track. Jost Jonck was able to take home his championship, but leading the field to the checkered flag was George Matuszynski there, holding off a very stout attack from David Third Degree Burns. Behind them was Gordon Vandenbergen rounding out your podium. Josh Brain was fourth and Jost Jonck was fifth, all he needed to claim that championship. Benjamin Harris was sixth, followed by series organizer Wojciech Hodacek in seventh, Vincent Bream eighth, with Christopher Giros ninth, and Alexander Wilfert rounding out your top 10.
This is where I point out this is one of the few circuits in the world that can host every single style of racing, and one of the big four for 24-hour races in iRacing. Ludwig Sauer had himself, not a sour race, but I would say a bit of both, a sweet and sour, so to speak, there in 11th place, and a huge gap back to Andre Silander there in 12th position. Christian Gruler picked up 13th ahead of JT Koppinen. Titus de Jong there in P15 ahead of Nenad Ulit. Then you had Mackenzie Mann there in 17th position with Remco Pleisier in P18. AJ Campbell ends up with 19th position. The top 20 going to Kai Alpstad.
Klaus Loden came home in 21st, followed by Nicholas Anderson, with Stefan Krayer and Tony Hayes behind them. Joff Randa was 25th, followed by Christopher Crook, Thomas Kick, and Rob Adams. But in the booth right now, we have your second place finisher and second place in the championship, David Burns. David, I know it's got to be a little bit disappointing to lose out on the championship in the win, but that looked like an absolutely epic battle there with Matuszynski. Had to be a lot of fun out on track today.
Yeah, it's always nice when you come across someone that you've never raced before, but you're like, oh, I wonder how good he is. Yeah, so it was a really good fight, actually. I was a little bit more concerned at the start because I wasn't sure about Gordon, and he really was pushing the cold dirt. I thought he was going to kill us, but thankfully he held it.
I was going to say, how much does that sort of change your strategy coming in with some new guys like that? We're so used to seeing you sort of ride up front with, the same, the usual gang. Did it change your driving style? Did it change your approach with some newcomers into the league?
Yeah, little bit. I always like to judge to get a read on people. So for the first couple of laps, I got a red in Gordon. I thought, you're pushing it a little bit. George, I could see he seemed to like to push the off tracks a little bit, but he was still holding it in a lot of pace. So I knew he was probably going to be the one out of the two. And also early on when I was keeping an eye on where Jost was, but I knew he only needed P7 and I needed to win at least. And I thought, it's probably not going to happen. So I was just concentrating on the race. But yeah, it does mix it up quite a bit when there's new people in. So I like to get a read on them.
Well, talking about that going for the win, obviously the last lap, the move going down into Vidal, it looks like you had it there for a second, maybe a little bit of a loss of grip coming off of it. How hard were you fighting for it at that point? How hard were you pushing Matuszynski to try to take that win away?
Oh, I was pushing quite hard, but what screwed me over was I was in the wrong gear. I was in third coming out of the chicane. I didn't look down. I should have been in second. If I'd have been in second, I'd have got the drive off and I could have been on his inside, but that's racing. So we had a good fight then.
Well, I hate to hear that's what cost you out, but David, always good to catch up with you. Always great to see you racing. Anybody you'd like to thank for this second place here today?
Well, just the usual people, but I think a special mention should go out to Jost for the championship this season. He's really deserved it, and it is nice to see someone win it that hasn't won it before. He's put in a lot of consistency. He was a wee bit down because he didn't have the speed to the day, and I said, you didn't need the speed, mate. You just needed to be consistent. So a big congrats to him.
Well, and a big congrats to you as well, David, for this second place. And that, unfortunately, is going to wrap up our coverage here today of the Absolute Beginner League Formula Neagle Series. But before we go, we want to give a special thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Jake, Joe, and Dougie. You can find more out about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed on the screen. Also, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below so you don't want to miss that. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. We've got upcoming races for other series listed on your screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar so you don't miss them. And most importantly, don't miss tonight, the season finale of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series at Daytona, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. It is going to be fantastic. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.